I've been contemplating more thoughts about harmony, and this has been in relationship to the 6 harmonies that the Buddha taught the Sangha 2,600 years ago in order to support their ability to live together with respect and loving kindness. And a lot has come up for me. I looked in the dictionary and it says, well, beyond the musical definition, that it is a capability to exist in congenial combination, free of disputes with mutual civility and respect. That it is the congruity of parts with one another and the congruity of parts with the whole. So trying to translate this into a human relationship experience. So I have to say that I think that's what all of us want, is to be able to live together with civility, loving kindness, and mutual respect. And that if we could all do that, I think we can honestly agree that it would be a very, very fine thing. Not just for ourselves, but just to throw that little stone into the pond, it would totally affect and transform the world that we live in. And that easier said than done, because harmony is one of the core values here at the Abbey. And this community works very, very hard to promote and to create and to sustain harmony. And it requires a lot of fortitude and forgiveness, self-acceptance, humor, flexibility. It's a lot of work to have a harmonious community. And when it's not there, I mean, we have to put the brakes on whatever's going on in the community. We have to sit down and really come together and figure out what is not working that's causing the disharmony, and to reconnect with our values and our motivation. So, I came up with a few things that I misunderstood about harmony. First of all, it is not a romantic notion. It's not fluffy, it's not sentimental. It's one of the most powerful, amazing, joyful experiences that I think individuals can have together as human beings. And that it's present when the body, speech, and mind of the beings are going in the same direction with this idea of civility, respect, and loving kindness. To clarify my comment that we in the West, because we're so habituated to this paradigm of individuality, that at times living in harmony appears to be much more of a challenge for us. And that it's not to say that individuality is a bad thing, because all living beings are uniquely individual. I mean, I think that's what brings a lot of freshness, a lot of creativity, and a lot of hope into the world, because of that uniqueness. But where we get into trouble is when the self-centered thought hooks into that experience of unique individuality, which is, by the way, changing moment by moment by moment. So individuality isn't like concrete from its own side, but that self-centered thought poisons that experience of individuality with its permutations on what it thinks individuality is. And it has all of these slogans like, well, I am unique, but I'm also the source of the universe. I'm also the center of the universe. I want when I want it. Winning is everything. Snooze, you lose. Over my dead body. I mean, the self-centered thought takes that, when it's running, and it takes hostage of our minds. We are no longer these unique, growing, creative individuals. We're tyrants, we're whiners, we're manipulators. And the harmony has just gone out the window. So instead of participating in our communities, whether they're family community, friend community, workplace community, instead of participating in a way that brings out the best in us as well as the best in others, the self-centered thought uses that individuality to interfere with the harmony of that group. And instead of putting our best foot forward, we end up stepping on everybody's toes. And that the self-centered thought hates harmony. It detests it, because harmony requires sharing, taking turns, admitting mistakes, compromising, rejoicing in other people's good qualities, and giving up being right all the time. So it is like the antithesis of harmony is to have the self-centered thought take hostage of our minds when we live in any type of relationship. So the Buddha taught the 6 harmonies so that the Sangha could have these practical guidelines on how to sort of counteract the self-centered thought that continually thinks it's the center of the universe. It helps us to untangle these 6 harmonies, help us to untangle the self-centered thought from our minds, and to be able to sort of rethink and come around on what it means to be a unique individual in our world, not just because we want to grow and because we want to be nourished, but because we want to benefit others. My other misconception was that living in community and maintaining my individuality were contradictory, that they can't live together. And I'm finding out from living in the community here that they actually are crucial components of each other. So in regards to the 6 harmonies, I wanted to go through the first 3, which are physical harmony, verbal harmony, and mental harmony. And I came up with some words in our language that conjure up for me, because I'm a very visual person, that's how I do a lot of my processing visually, is that they conjure up images of what I think the Buddha had in mind when he thought about these first 3 harmonies. What we need to refrain from in order to cultivate harmony, and what do we need to cultivate. So this is going to be a little bit of an experiment. So I want everybody to close their eyes. And as I say these words, let pictures or images or thoughts arise. So the first one is physical harmony. We endeavor not to have violence in any of our actions. So we attempt to refrain from, and just watch the images that arise, killing, stealing, hitting, smashing, swatting, trapping, squishing, beating, shooting, trampling, rioting, poisoning, jeering. We'll just take a moment, and the images that come from just those words, what they elicit from our minds. These are the things that the Buddha asks us to refrain from. And why? Look at the images that arise from just the words. In the same way, he asks us to connect to the feelings in the body that arise with these words instead. Smiling, holding gently, walking mindfully, sitting quietly, observing, bowing, prostrating, listening deeply, meditating, letting go, releasing. And let the images, the emotions, the thoughts arise. These are the things that the Buddha asks us to try and cultivate to ensure and promote physical harmony in our communities. The second one, verbal harmony. We endeavor to refrain from violence in our speech and to cultivate kind communication. So the Buddha asks us to refrain from yelling, screeching, threatening, lying, gossiping, slandering, backstabbing, humiliating, whining, blaming, accusing. So just the flavor of the mind as you hear those words and the images that arise. What you see in your life, what you've experienced in your own life. And instead he encourages us to encourage, chant, praise, appreciate, recite mantra, articulate, express, reflect back, empathize, relate, communicate. And then lastly, the mental harmony, once again, to really just let the images and the thoughts arise as I say these words. Refraining from mental violence and instead cultivating virtuous visualizations. Refraining from evaluating, judging, criticizing, fantasizing, projecting, proliferating, hallucinating, disconnecting, basically crazy making. Take a moment to think and let the images arise, the feeling tone in the mind. And instead to visualize bodhicitta, compassion, self-acceptance, understanding, forgiving, being patient, persevering, connecting, supporting, and respecting. Words have a lot of power. They label our experience, they give them meaning, even though we and our experiences are changing moment by moment. So if we want harmony, which of these images and thoughts do we want to conjure up, not just in our minds, but to enact in our lives? Which will promote and create harmony and peace, and which will not? So I've thought of these first three harmonies. This is what I think the Buddha wanted us to understand. That we have experiences, we have thoughts, actions, and verbal harmony that can either encourage and promote or really disturb and interfere with the harmony that we all so very much want. So the next time I'll continue on the 6 harmonies.